Did they ever go to you, your family, and did you have to?
It's
Did
funny.
you ever get to the point where you had to pay protection money?
My dad, because he was a heavy gambler, he owned race horses at Suffolk and Rockingham and all these different places. He would get a courtesy call from the mob telling him, Vito, don't bet your horse today. And the guy would just hang up. He wouldn't know who it was, but I'd say, what was that? And he says, oh, they don't want me to bet my horse today. They must have got to the jockey, and they don't want me to. They waste my money. See, he was on the good side of these guys,
Right.
but he wasn't involved with them because he talked horse business,
Yep.
and that's what they love to do.
So they more or less protected him.
We never
protected
got
his
it. We
interests.
never got approached with, would you like to? We need to pay you $100 a month or whatever, or it's going to be trouble. No, that never happened. In fact, I was only approached once by somebody. It was when we changed our trash company, believe it or not. And I won't name the company, but their initials were big friggin' Italians. And
Let me get the trucks went blue, were they?
but anyway, after years of dealing with them and them raising their rates on my trash, I decided to quit with them. And all of a sudden, this big guy shows up at my shop, and he says, and he had the uniform on,
Right,
and
right.
from the company, had a unshaven face.
Yeah.
He weighed about 350, and he looks at me, and says, I understand you canceled your contract with us. And I says, yeah. He says, you can't do that. I says, what? What are you talking about? I can't do that. I just did it. And I told him where he could go. And I mentioned it to a few of the people that I knew. I never heard from them again. But
Really?
Yeah.
Really? That's
But
surprising.
imagine he approached me to threaten me because I had changed my
Right.
trash company.
But
But
it didn't go down easily. did it?
no,
Yeah,
and there were no repercussions on that.
508-822-1106. If you have any questions for Tom, give us a call. I'm going to take a quick break. Be right back with more of Anything Goes. And we're back on Anything Goes. 508-822-1106 is our number. Give us a call. Talk to Tom about the Constant Outsider. Want to let you know the fair is coming November 14th and 15th. St. Thomas Episcopal Church is going to have their fair. That's Saturday, 9 to 4. Sunday, 11:30 to 3. On Saturday, they're going to have dinner at 4 to 6 in the Elks Hall. Guess what they're going to have at this thing? They're going to have antiques, gifts, collectibles, bakery tables, bid board, here we go, Chinese auction again, roll-ups. They keep throwing these terms in here I know absolutely nothing about, but a Chinese auction, my take on that is try to get the spare ribs on a Chinese auction. I'll have a number 2, whatever. So anyways, the fair is coming November 14th and 15th, St. Thomas Episcopal Church right here in Taunton, Saturday, 9 to 4, and Sunday, 11:30 to 3 o'clock. We're talking about life in South Boston, growing up in South Boston. Now, I imagine as you're growing up, a few watering holes in South Boston that are probably famous, and you probably get readily caught up in, okay? Just about every corner?
Every corner at that time just about had a tavern on it. And as the constant outsider, I always looked for ways to fit in where I was, and basically I found that a lot of the guys that I knew that I wanted to get to know better, they all drank pretty heavily, and they hung around at the local tavern. So that was one of the reasons that I started to...
So these are people besides the politicians?
yeah,
Okay.
just regular guys.
Just
I
regular.
wanted to be with the regular guys. And
Was that a challenge, trying to fit in?
It was definitely a
environment?
challenge because, first of all, I was a business owner. A lot of
Right.
the guys I hung around with were just 9 to 5 working in the area.
Right.
Maybe at the local rum company or whatever, bottling. These were just regular guys, and it was important to me to feel like I fit in. So I figured if I drank, that would be a connection with a lot of the people. And I started to do that, and believe it or not, it worked. And it seemed like the more I drank, the more accepted I was with the people that I wanted to be accepted with.
Did your dad go through the same thing?
My
when he was
dad
younger?
didn't drink.
He didn't?
When he
really?
was younger, I think he might have, but growing up, I never remember him drinking at all. So, he kept himself pretty healthy as far
Good.
as that goes.
Okay, so you got into the Irish pub scene in South Boston.
Yep.
Okay.
And
And where does that lead? Where does that lead to?
Well, every pub had its resident bookie.
Okay.
There was also gambling machines that were in a lot of the pubs, and a lot of drinking, a lot of playing pool until wee hours of the morning. And when I started drinking too much, of course, sometimes you end up in fights.
Right.
One night I ended up in a fight with two people I shouldn't have. I found out later that they were bookies from the west side of town and had never been in what was Gavin's Tavern at the time. Never been there before, so they started making some wisecracks, and I ended up, taking a swing at one of them, which I don't usually do, but after about 20 vodka and grapefruit juices, you don't think straight.
Right.
And then I ended up with a cue stick coming at me, and before you know it, it was a full-blown brawl. And then I was told that I better go and apologize to those guys because they were the wrong people to be messing with, and which I did.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was any repercussions from that.
Now, you mentioned a couple times West Side.
Mm-hmm.
What's the distinction in South? I know nothing about Southie. Between West Side and East Side. Different gangs controlling
I believe it
each
was.
area?
I believe
Is there competition?
from what I observed over the years, to me it seemed like the Irish mob controlled the west side of Southie. The Italian mob pretty much took care of the east side towards the beach and Castle Island area. I might be wrong, but I do know that they cooperated a lot together too, because I would observe meetings between the two groups in the neighborhood. They would be filing into an area apartment, and there were players from both Irish and Italians going in there. So there was a certain amount of cooperation.
Right.
But I think they said, we'll handle the gambling in this section of town. You can have this section of town. And that was very true, because I had a good example of that. One Saturday I had left Gavin's Tavern. It might have been called O'Leary's Pub by that time. They changed names so often. It was a Saturday, and I was still living in Weymouth at the time. I had moved out of Southie. And I come home and I look at the news, and there's a news flash. And it says South Boston Bar had just been machine gunned. And they're carrying these gambling machines out of the front door, and they're down the stairs. And I says, "Oh my God, that's Gavin's. I just left there like 10 minutes ago." And apparently a guy in a white Corvette just pulled up and sprayed the place with an M16. And I found out later that the reason that was done was it was a rival gang wanted to take over the gambling machines in that bar, and they were told they couldn't have it. So
you're like Houdini, aren't you?
Oh my God, I was so lucky.
Escaping within minutes?
Escaping within minutes. My wife
Same with the
was
previous
home.
story you told about that gentleman waiting for you.
Oh, there's a lot.
There, yeah.
There's a lot more. I mean, I've left bars and had a guy come in and shoot 5 people 5 minutes right at the bar where I was sitting, 5 minutes after I left. So I figured that I should share some of my stories because I think there's a reason I was let to survive.
You're a survivor.
Yeah. I think one of the main things I like to get across is drinking to fit in is a common problem with young people today.
Right.
And it's something that I did, and it ended up costing me dearly. I mean, I've totaled 2 cars. I've gotten into fights where I shouldn't have. It's just in an effort to fit in, some people will go to extremes, and like I did. And I'd like to get that point across, and hopefully some young people that read the book might learn from some of the stupid mistakes that I made and avoid some of the same consequences. Because I was lucky. I never killed anybody in a car wreck.
Right.
I've never hurt anybody. I could have. I mean, I could be doing life in prison for killing a family of 6 if I had hit the wrong people in a car. In those days, I didn't think of those things. I was young. And drinking just took over, so...
Right. So don't use drinking as your social networking.
No, it's a bad idea. Bad idea.
508-822-1106 is our number. Tom Cirignano is my guest today. We're talking about his fascinating book, The Constant Outsider. Give us a call. Let us know if you have any questions. Now, you've got some other unique stories within this book. One of them has to do. It occurred during the gas shortage back in the. Was that in